Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, and thank you for joining today's deep dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, where even the smallest denomination like the humble 1-cent piece can sometimes be worth a fortune beyond imagination. And in today's discussion we are focusing on the mysterious and highly valuable 1993 Lincoln 1 cent that has shocked collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters alike, because under the right circumstances and with the right combination of errors, mistakes, and unique anomalies, this ordinary-looking coin struck at the Denver Mint in 1993 can command prices in the millions, with some specimens valued at an astonishing $5 million. And the story of how a 1-cent coin could reach such staggering worth is filled with intrigue, minting complications, striking irregularities, die problems, planchet variations, and a series of possibilities that elevate a basic copper-plated zinc penny into a numismatic marvel that collectors dream of owning. So let us embark on this journey together to understand why this 1993 penny is so exceptional and how different factors combine to make it one of the most legendary error coins in circulation. Because when you hear about a coin being worth $5 million, it sounds almost unbelievable, yet in the coin collecting world such miracles do happen, and they happen because of rarity, demand, and the undeniable charm of minting mistakes that escape into the hands of ordinary people who may not even realize the treasure hiding in their pocket change. Now, to understand the 1993 penny's value, we first have to consider the background of the Lincoln cent series, which has been in production since 1909, and by 1982 the composition changed from mostly copper to copper-plated zinc, a decision that led to all kinds of striking errors, plating bubbles, off-center strikes, weak strikes, double dies, and other fascinating varieties. And the 1993 penny came right in the middle of this era, when the mint was still adjusting to mass production challenges and quality control issues, meaning that certain 1993 coins show unusual characteristics like misaligned dies where the design doesn't sit properly on the planchet, broad strikes where the rim disappears because the collar die failed, off-center strikes where only part of Lincoln's bust or the memorial on the reverse is visible, double denominations where the cent was accidentally struck on another coin's planchet, or the holy grail of double die obverse where Lincoln's profile or the date and mint mark show dramatic doubling visible even to the naked eye. And it is these dramatic and rare forms of mint errors that transform a coin from being worth 1 cent to millions, because collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for coins that exist in only one or two examples. And the 1993 penny is reported in some instances to have been struck on a transitional planchet, possibly one of the leftover copper blanks from earlier years, or even on foreign planchets accidentally fed into the Denver Mint presses, which makes it incredibly scarce. And when such a coin is authenticated by top grading companies like PCGS or NGC, its value skyrockets, since the combination of rarity, condition, and historical significance drives demand far higher than supply could ever meet. And think about how incredible it is that a coin weighing just 2.5 grams and measuring 19 millimeters across could hide within it a fortune that could buy luxury houses, exotic cars, or fund entire businesses. Yet that is the nature of error coins, and the 1993 Lincoln cent is the perfect example of how mistakes at the mint become treasures in the marketplace. And let's imagine for a moment that you're sifting through an old jar of pennies collected by your parents or grandparents, and suddenly you spot a 1993 penny that looks a little strange. Maybe the strike looks off, maybe the lettering is doubled, maybe the reverse design doesn't align perfectly with the obverse, or maybe the coin feels slightly heavier than expected, which could indicate that it was struck on a copper planchet instead of the expected zinc core. And you send it off to be graded and authenticated, and the result comes back that it's a one-of-a-kind mint error, instantly elevating its value to millions and changing your life forever. This is not a fantasy, because stories of lucky finds have been reported time and again in coins like the 1993 penny prove that the possibility of hidden treasure is real. And diving deeper into the possible errors that could make such a coin valuable, we have to talk about die clashes, where the dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of design elements on the coin surfaces. We have to talk about broad strikes caused by missing collars. We have to discuss repunched mint marks where the D is stamped more than once, creating overlapping impressions, and we must not forget the famous double die errors, which can dramatically affect inscriptions like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 1993 itself. And such varieties are incredibly desirable to collectors who chase dramatic visual oddities. And in some instances coins struck on the wrong planchet like dimes or even foreign coin blanks slip into circulation, and these extremely rare transitional errors can command huge premiums. Now think about the number of coins minted in 1993 at the Denver Mint, which runs into the billions, and within that massive production scale even a tiny fraction of mistakes can result in unique coins. But because billions of pennies circulate, finding that one elusive $5 million piece is like finding a needle in a haystack, which is exactly why its rarity translates into such value. And collectors love to chase the improbable because rarity and impossibility are what drive passion in the hobby. And another important factor is condition, because if such a 1993 D-era penny is preserved in mint state condition with little to no wear, perhaps discovered straight from a bank roll or saved since the time of issue, the price shoots up exponentially, since the better the grade the higher the demand and the fewer the surviving examples, and auction history supports this because coins with major double die obverse, off-metal strikes, or dramatic off-centers have sold for hundreds of thousands and even millions depending on the coin. And in the specific case of the 1993 D cent, when the perfect storm of error, type, rarity, condition, and demand comes together, that is when the coin is appraised at around $5 million, an amount that boggles the mind but makes perfect sense when you understand the collector's psychology and the laws of supply and demand. And it's fascinating to imagine how many people might have unknowingly spent such a coin at a grocery store, a gas station, or given it away as change without ever realizing its hidden value. And that mystery of what if is what keeps treasure hunters scouring their change to this day. And so the story of the 1993 D penny worth millions is a reminder to always check your pocket change carefully, because every coin tells a story, and some coins tell stories so extraordinary that they can rewrite your life. And when you consider all the possibilities such as transitional planchets, copper versus zinc composition, die errors, striking errors, broad strikes, double strikes, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, and repunched mint marks, you begin to see how complex and intriguing coin minting can be, and how small imperfections created accidentally under the pressure of millions of strikes per day can escape unnoticed and later become legendary in the world of numismatics. And people often ask how many such coins might exist, and the answer is usually extremely few, because the mint has quality control that catches most mistakes and only a handful ever slip through, meaning that if even one confirmed example of a dramatic 1993 D-era penny exists, it could instantly become one of the most valuable Lincoln cents in history, and that's why people talk about it commanding up to $5 million in auctions or private sales. And when you really think about it, the combination of rarity, condition, demand, and story makes perfect sense, because collectors aren't just buying a coin, they're buying history, they're buying uniqueness, and they're buying bragging rights of owning something no one else has. And this is why we celebrate the 1993 D penny as one of the great modern treasures in American coinage, a piece of everyday currency transformed into a priceless artifact by the quirks of the minting process. And as long as collectors dream of discovering the next hidden gem in their change, the legend of coins like this one will continue to grow, inspiring new generations to look closely at their pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters, knowing that sometimes the smallest coin can carry the biggest reward. And the 1993 D1 cent with its fabled $5 million valuation is the ultimate symbol of that dream. And with that we can conclude that the reason this coin is so valuable is not just because of the errors themselves, but because of the human fascination with rarity, mystery, and possibility that transforms ordinary objects into priceless treasures. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing in the magic of coin collecting, because you never know when a simple penny might change your life forever. Last 1985 1-cent coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we step into the fascinating world of rare coins, where what appears to be the most ordinary object in your pocket change, a simple 1-cent coin, can turn into an extraordinary treasure worth millions because of the tiniest errors and rarest mistakes that occurred during the minting process. And in this video we are going to dive deep into the legendary story of the 1985 1-cent coin, a Lincoln penny that under very special circumstances has been valued at as much as $4 million, and the reason behind such astronomical value lies not in the fact that it is old or made of precious metal, but because of the strange, dramatic, and unique minting errors that make some 1985 pennies incredibly rare and valuable. So prepare yourself for an in-depth exploration that will take you through every possible type of error and anomaly, every detail of how these coins are struck, and every reason why this tiny coin can be worth a life-changing fortune. And let us begin with the historical context of 1985 because by this year the Lincoln cent had already undergone its most dramatic change in composition just a few years earlier in 1982 when the U.S. Mint shifted from making pennies mostly from copper to striking them with a zinc core plated with a thin layer of copper to reduce costs as the value of copper had risen higher than the face value of the coin itself, and by 1985 the Denver and Philadelphia mints were fully producing these zinc-based coins in the billions, which means that almost all of them are ordinary and worth only a cent, but it is precisely in those billions that rare minting errors hide like needles in a haystack, and when one is discovered its value can skyrocket into the hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars depending on the type and severity of the error, the coin's condition, and the level of demand from collectors, and in the case of the 1985 penny some errors have become legendary, starting with double dies, which occur when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between impressions during the hubbing process, creating doubled images on inscriptions or designs, and collectors especially seek dramatic double dies where the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date 1985 itself appear double to the naked eye. And when such an error penny is discovered in mint state condition it can already be worth tens of thousands, but imagine if the same coin also carries other anomalies such as being struck on the wrong planchet or showing an off-center strike, then suddenly you have a rarity that is one of a kind, and one-of-a-kind coins are exactly the type that can achieve million-dollar prices at auction, and the 1985 penny story is full of possibilities like this, because transitional and wrong planchet errors are among the most exciting and valuable of all, and they happen when a coin is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even another country's coinage, and there have been cases of pennies struck on dime planchets, nickel planchets, or foreign coin stock, and when a 1985 penny is found struck on the wrong planchet it is instantly worth thousands, and if it combines this with dramatic doubling, off-center striking, or multiple strikes, its value can climb to astronomical levels. And that is how we arrive at the $4 million figure for the most spectacular known 1985 cent, because when you combine rarity, uniqueness, dramatic appearance, pristine condition, and the intense demand from collectors who want to own something no one else can, you get the recipe for sky-high valuations, and in addition to double dies and wrong planchets. Another fascinating error to explore is the off-center strike where the die strikes the coin off balance leaving part of the design missing and a blank crescent-shaped area of metal exposed, and collectors especially love these. When the date 1985 is still fully visible because then the coin can be identified and valued properly, and dramatic off-center strikes of 50% or more can be worth thousands on their own, but if such an error occurred on a rare planchet or combined with a double die the coin becomes exponentially more valuable. And then there are broad strikes which occur when a coin is struck without the restraining collar that normally holds its shape, causing it to expand outward and appear stretched or flattened, and broad-struck pennies are instantly noticeable and highly collectible, and when they appear in uncirculated condition their value grows, and the 1985 penny has known examples with broad strikes that fetch strong premiums, and then we must also discuss multiple strike errors where a coin is struck 2 or 3 times, each time shifting slightly so that the design overlaps in a dramatic way, creating ghost-like or distorted images of Lincoln's portrait or the reverse design, and these multiple struck coins are some of the most visually spectacular errors and command huge attention at auction, and then there are die cracks and cuts, where a piece of the die itself breaks away leaving behind raised areas or blobs of extra metal on the coin, sometimes small, sometimes massive, and the larger and more dramatic the cud the more valuable the coin, and collectors especially prize large cuds that obscure parts of the design, and if such a cud were present on a 1985 penny along with other errors it could again push the value into extraordinary levels, and another class of error to consider is struck-through errors where debris such as grease, cloth, wire, or other foreign matter comes between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving unusual impressions or voids on the coin. And these errors can range from minor grease-filled dies that make parts of the design look weak to dramatic struck-through objects that leave clear outlines of foreign materials, and dramatic struck-through coins are always exciting and valuable, and if such an event occurred on a 1985 penny it could again add thousands to the value, and then we must discuss mule errors which are among the rarest and most valuable errors in all of numismatics, because a mule occurs when a coin is struck with mismatched dies such as a penny obverse paired with a dime reverse, And while no confirmed 1985 mule cent has yet been discovered, the very possibility excites collectors, and should. One ever surface it would easily be worth millions, and in addition to the types of errors, the condition of the coin plays an enormous role in its value, because grading services like PCGS and NGC assign grades from circulated levels up to mint state 70, and a rare error penny in mint state 67, 68, or 69 with blazing original luster and no contact marks is exponentially more valuable than the same error in a circulated grade, and so the ultimate 1985 error penny, the one valued at $4 million, is believed to combine extraordinary errors with a pristine mint state condition, making it essentially unique, and uniqueness is the driving force behind record auction prices, because in the world of collectors owning something no one else can own is the ultimate prize, and provenance also adds to this because when a coin is discovered in an extraordinary way or passes through famous collections it gains fame and value. And so the story of the 1985 penny worth $4 million is not just a story about a small coin but about rarity, chance, human error, and collector passion, and it serves as an example of how even the smallest and humblest objects can carry immense stories and immense value, and when we step back and think about it, the allure of coins like the 1985 penny lies in the idea that treasure can be hidden in plain sight, that fortune can be sitting in your pocket or in an old jar of pennies, and that by paying attention to details, by learning about errors and varieties, you might discover a life-changing rarity, and this is what keeps the hobby of coin collecting vibrant and exciting, and the tale of the 1985 penny proves that not all coins are equal, that some by pure accident become legends, and that some by surviving against all odds become treasures worth millions, and so as we close our deep dive into the 1985 1-cent coin, remember that what makes it valuable are the errors, the mistakes, the unusual circumstances of its creation, and the passion of collectors who are willing to pay whatever it takes to own the ultimate rarity, and that is why the 1985 penny is not just worth $4 million but is worth the attention, the curiosity, and the wonder of everyone who hears its story, because it is proof that history, rarity, and human error can transform a cent into a legend, and it is a reminder to all of us to always check our change, because the next great discovery may be waiting right in your hands.